Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two questions for the administration and then some comments. The first question is, as I read the map, the laneway suites in the lane behind James Hill Row are contiguous. That they follow 1 to 7 and then 1 to 7 again. Am I reading that map correctly?
Mr. Carlston.
Your Worship, yes, that is correct.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. The second question relates to the school. I noticed that the Public School Board wrote expressing concern. I'm wondering what the administration's position is with respect to the concern that the Public School Board indicated vis-a-vis parking and congestion.
Mr. Carlston.
Your Worship, again, that parking was reviewed by our transportation engineers, and I might defer to Mr. Brown to elaborate upon that, please.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Worship. Again, through you, parking was reviewed. We do expect that because of the laneway product, McCaughy Street will receive a bit of a higher percentage of parking on that local street itself. That being said, it is a local street with an 8.7 meter width and parking on one side. Just the difference being that it would be probably a little more at capacity on this particular road because of the laneway product. So it'd be part of that laneway product evaluation that we'll be looking at in terms of how it functions.
Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to begin by saying that I understand the need for increased density in the city, and I also want to say that I, in general, support laneway suites, and I'm pleased that there's pilot projects proposed for laneway suites. That said, I think that this is the wrong neighborhood in which to experiment with this, and the wrong type of experiment, and I want to say so for two reasons. First involves density. If you wanted to cram one more house into Harbour Landing, you'd need a shoehorn and a pound of butter. This is just a situation in which houses are very, very tightly placed together. It's not a case where density, we need to increase density. The density is already there, and I believe that the 20 extra laneway suites exaggerates that density beyond the breaking point. Indeed, I believe that it threatens the neighborhood. And I note the following. First of all, with respect to the school, one of the problems we have in Harbour Landing is that the community amenities that normally you think of in terms of a neighborhood just aren't there yet. Right now, there's absolutely no place in which you can have a public meeting, in which you can hold a polling booth. That school construction will remedy that, but that's going to be a very congested, very busy school. And I think these laneway suites close to that school pose a problem, and I can well understand why the school board expressed concern, and the concern, I think, is more with respect to James Hill Road than anywhere else. So I think that there's a real congestion problem there. I also think that there's a problem with the fact that the setbacks in the lane are being reduced by down to 1.5 instead of 2.5 meters. It's going to be a very congested neighborhood, and I think that this, for that reason alone, is not the place to experiment with the laneway suites, which I notice for the most part, for 14 out of 20, are contiguous. I also want to say that I think that the pilot project should be placed in an area where they're given their best chance of success, and I don't think that that's it. So because I think this neighborhood is already extremely dense, this is the wrong place to run a pilot project, but also because I think that the neighborhood itself will not accommodate well these neighborhood suites. I'd like to see this pilot project tried elsewhere. I want to just make one other point. There was no public consultation with respect to this because there really could be no public consultation. The neighborhood right now, the immediate neighborhood in which these houses and suites would be built is vacant. There are lots of housing around, but they're just too far away for the consultation parameter. It means that I don't think there's been any proper public input into this, including from the councillor up until now. And I take with the exception of the school criticism, which I take seriously, I am very concerned that this is too much density in this area and not the proper place for this pilot project. So I'm opposed to this, Mr. Mayor. What I'd like to suggest is that this be tabled and referred back to the Mayor's Housing Commission, because I think the Mayor's Housing Commission should look seriously at the criteria we have for pilot projects and neighborhood suites. In general, I think we need better definition of the number of neighborhood suites that constitute a pilot project, the type of neighborhood suites, the criteria used for selecting a pilot project, and the evaluation to eventually be used in evaluating the pilot projects for neighborhood suites. But in terms of this particular pilot project, I'm convinced it's wrong. It's wrong both for piloting neighborhood suites, and it's wrong in terms of the neighborhood and the density of Harbour Landing. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that this matter be tabled and the reference be made to the Mayor's Housing Commission to receive input from the administration on how pilot projects are to be conducted for neighborhood suites.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. The motion is referral and is not debatable. We understand what's being asked here, to refer this report to the Housing Commission. If we're all clear this on the motion for referral, all those in favor? Hands up again, please. All those against? Motion's carried. Should be referred to the next meeting of the Housing Commission.